Hello YouTube, this is Brian Tubbs coming at you with another video. Hey, today it's just going to be a quick video. It's really just going to be kind of showing some of the benefits of having a fixture table. It doesn't have to be an expensive fixture table, but just as long as you have a fixture table. You don't have to start out with a fixture table. You can start out with a Harbor Freight, flat table. It really doesn't matter. I mean, I started out with a table, like this, just a Harbor Freight table, and I've, talked about how they worked. They worked fairly well until I started doing, the big curls, like these guys here. And when I was doing those curls, they just kind of bent the tables even more than what they were. So when I was trying to do, like flat pieces, it was really difficult to do on those two tables I had, the two Harbor Freight tables, because they were so warped, and it was just hard to find a flat spot on them. So I would have to get like an extra piece of, metal to lay on top, just to kind of get some flatness. And so after I got tired of that enough, I just went ahead and, spent the money on these fixture tables. And these are, as I've said before, from Prime Weld. They are 3 length by 2 width, and I have 2 of them combined. So I have a 6 by about 2, which is plenty. And if I need, another one, I just buy another table, or I just buy like an extension for the table, which is fine. But I just want you guys, just kind of show you guys some of the benefits of having one, because the piece that I'm making, as you can see, kind of right here, I'm making a piece that it's just kind of everyone knows it. Anybody that has had any type of math classes or anything like that, it's going to be the pi symbol. And I'm just going to pan the camera down just so you can see the whole piece. But the video is really not going to be about, building the pi. I'm building this top piece. This is just the front piece, and the rest of it is on the table here. And I'm just using my fixture table just to kind of put this thing together, and I'll be kind of explaining what I'm doing and why it's important for this piece, to have a fixture table. It will be pretty difficult to do this piece without having a fixture table. But I'm gonna just kind of pan the camera down so you guys can kind of see this. All right, guys, so I'm down here on the floor, but as you can see, this was the cardboard cutout for it, and I went wider and larger than this cutout because I just wanted to get more I guess, girth, because when you're standing back at a distance, I want you to be able to see, the piece, because this was kind of narrow coming this way on the front and back. And I knew that when I put this on the metal, that I would make everything a little bit wider, as it went down. And even this top piece, I extended it further. It has more length on the metal, and it's a lot taller than this piece. But I knew that going in, when we designed it on here and then we cut it out. I mean, that's normally how I do it. We will cut out something on cardboard, and if it's too, big and wide and that, I will put it on the metal, trace it out, and then when I cut the metal, I will either cut it a little bit narrower or a little bit wider than our cardboard cutouts. So the cardboard cutouts are never really exact. They're just kind of a guide, to what we do. And after I cut the metal pieces out, I took another piece of cardboard and traced, that particular piece out, because that's how wide I want it to be, going forward. And so what I'll be doing next is, this is a stainless steel, just a disc, or it's not going to be necessarily a donut, because our donuts have a hole in the middle, but it's going to be a solid round disc that I will, it will probably be, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches, you know, wide. By this is, I don't know, 8 or whatever, 8.5, whatever this size is. I haven't even measured it. But this is going to sit on the very top of that piece, because pi is the difference between the radius and the circumference of a circle. So we're just going to add this circle on top just to kind of pull that whole thing together. So what I'll be doing today is just showing, you know, really just why I think a fixture table is beneficial, you know, if you're doing this kind of stuff. If you're just doing, you know, just your other type sculptures that don't have all these bends and twists to it. I mean, like I said, Harbor Freight table would be fine, but it's just I could have done this on a Harbor Freight table, but it just would have been much more difficult, much more time consuming than having done it on this fixture table. So what I'm gonna do is I'll bring the camera in. Well, actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the camera back up, just put this disc on there so you guys can get a preview of what it's gonna look like with this disc on it. All right, so the disc will probably sit somewhere, probably right in the center, but it'll be set back, so it'll be somewhere in center. I want the pi sign, but I don't want it to just look like a pi sign. I just want to add, you know, a little bit more to it. And right now this is, I don't know, somewhere close to 5 feet, but we're going to put it on a pedestal. We're going to raise it up, so it'll probably about 7 feet tall at the top of the circle when we get finished with it. I could have made the piece 7 feet tall, but the taller you get, the more like wimpy these become, because it's so tall and stretched out. So we're going to go at this height, then just put it up on a nice, you know, base that it will sit on, just to get it up higher. So that's what I'm working on now, this piece. I just finished up, I think it was 4 pieces for my son. You guys, on one of the videos, I was teaching him how to weld, and we came up with 4 different pieces. And I'll get you guys, if I can remember, I'll get you guys a picture of that in one of the videos, upcoming videos. But let me go ahead and get you guys in closer so you can see what I'm doing on the table. Okay, guys, so you really can't, you know, see me or whatever, but you can see the fixture table. And this is the opposite side of this piece that's lying on the table. I have it clamped down to the table now. I had to clamp it down like this to get this piece of metal that's here, you know, welded to this. I guess this will be the front or back side right here. This metal is 14 gauge core 10, and it's tough to bend. And this is the other. This will be the bottom of that, and I've already put some bends in it. I had to use my English wheel. I had to use a pipe. Just all kinds of different, you know, techniques that I had to use to bend this 14 gauge core 10. I mean, it's not that it's that difficult to bend, But when you're trying to bend, you know, like tight arcs like this, it makes it tough, because the more you bend metal, the more it wants to work hard, and it gets harder and harder, more difficult to bend. And so once I put the bends in it, when I put it on here, I had to, you know, follow the lines that I had. Then I had to unbend this to make it fit in certain spots. So I had to use my pry bar. I had to use some stops to put into the holes to kind of support this pry bar going against the metal. And when I was bending this metal back toward this piece, it wanted to raise up off the table. So I had to put these fab squares onto the table. I had to, connect them to the table with the bolts that I showed you guys that I made. And then I had to put these clamps on here. I mounted them into the table squares to connect to this this plate, or this sheet metal. Then I had to lock it right to the fab squares, so that when I pulled this metal forward, it wouldn't raise up on this bottom edge, because it wanted to tilt in as I was pulling it forward. It wanted to lean in this way, which made that bottom come off the table. And so had I not noticed that there was a big gap under it, I would have welded it, and I would have had this big gap, and this would have been on an angle coming out, as opposed to going straight up. It would have been coming out this way, which would have made it a lot more difficult to weld when I put this other piece on, because that would have been coming out this way. I would have had to been fighting against it, trying to put this upper, piece on. So just being able to clamp your pieces, and on this piece right here is perfectly vertical. It's not leaning forward, nor is it leaning backwards. It's perfectly vertical, because it's in line with these fab squares. When I say perfectly, I mean nothing is exactly perfect, but it's as close to perfect as I could get it. And so when I was able to, mount it and secure it to these fab squares, I was able to take, like I said, take the pry bar, pry this forward, and it wasn't kicking up anymore, because this wall couldn't lean forward. It causes it to kick up. And so, like I said, this video is really about the advantages of fab tables, fixture tables, if you want to call it that. Like I said, I could have done this with like my old Harbor Freight type tables, but it would have been much more difficult. I would have been, pulling my hair out and everything else, trying to figure out a way to clamp it down to do it like this. Now, had I used like a 16 gauge, which is what I normally use, is a 16 gauge core 10 when I'm, making certain sculptures. Some sculptures I'll use 14, 12, it just depends. But normally when I do a bend like this, I would have used like a 16 gauge. But since it's going to be resting on the top of those two legs, and that steel disc is going to be on top, I needed something more firm to weld that disc to and to weld those legs to. So I went with a 14 gauge. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to have to just take these, well, actually I might leave these fab squares on here, because I will be attaching the lower portion like this down here, and I just don't want this thing, sliding, because I'll be putting force on it on this side with the pry bar, just trying to get it, lined up and everything. So, but for sure I'm gonna have to take these clamps and these guys here off in order to get the other sheet up to it. And the easiest good thing about these, I don't know if I mentioned it in a couple of videos, but before, these had the big open nut things on it. I took those off and just put a 5/8 this outer shield on the inside of this shield piece here. If you can see that, it's threaded, because there's a threaded rod that came out of this, and the big nut mounted onto that. So I just took a 5/8 steel tube, cut it, slid it on there, and just welded this tube to that inside threaded rod. So now I would have to put this in to one of the holes, take the nut portion, go under the table and screw it on in order to lock this down. But now, since I put this 5/8 piece of pipe on it, I just slide into one of the holes, any hole, and just lock it down. So I just add speed. And I made the video on fixture table clamp hack, or what I think that's what the video was called. And I showed you guys how I made these. So now I'll just take these guys off. Let me see, then see if I can work with it as far as getting that piece on. If I can't, I'll have to just make a couple changes, which is fine. But it's just having this fixture table just makes things so much easier and faster, and it's not a lot less, I guess I can say, stressful in a sense of just trying to figure out how I'm gonna do something, because the Harbor Freight table wouldn't allow me to clamp in a certain position and all that kind of stuff. So it just makes it easier. So what I'm gonna do now is try to get this other piece on to here. And I might just have to move the camera around a little bit more so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right. And this edge and this edge are so similar. You might be able to see it better here. This outer edge here and this edge are so similar, I have to keep reminding myself of which is the top of the piece and which is the bottom. They are different, but they are very, very similar. That's why I have top on here to let me know that this is the top of the piece and this is the bottom that will rest on top of those two legs. And then with this piece of metal, I'm looking to see what's top and what's bottom. And I see I have on here top. It has top back written on here. Now I got to remember what that means. Okay, so this is the back side of it, and this is the front. So I just got to see how I can do this now. Just trying to get things kind of lined up and just make sure my rows are in the right place. You know, where I have it, have my bins. Just make sure those are fairly close to what I need before I just start welding something together. And I think I'm going to start with welding this in first. Then I have to stretch it down. And here, it should work. it's just challenging trying to do pieces like this. And let me see. This should be okay. All right. All right. And 9. I'm just measuring these out because one piece seems so much larger than the other one. Huh. This piece looks like it's an inch or two wider than this piece, but when I put the tape measure on it, they're close to the same anyway. This one's about 1/8 of an inch off, which is fine. I can grind that down. Yeah, about 1/8 of an inch off. I can just grind that off. But when I first put it on there, it looked like it was a whole inch, about an inch off. But when I look at it from a different angle, it's not as bad. So I'm just going to slide them together. Now I just go in and just get a couple tacks in here. I'm setting my welder to about 1/4 inch, just to get it hot so I can just burn everything in. Make sure it's on the table. All right, here we go. Make sure there's no gap in here. It's tough getting in here. The piece wants to raise up off the table. What I will have to do is take my pry bar and start prying this piece, this to the inner piece, because it's even though this is has the bend in it, it still has a space between this and the inner piece. So I just have to kind of finagle it a little bit. I think I'll leave these clamps on there until I get these couple tacks here, and then I'll go ahead and move these out of the way and put my stops on the table behind it, because I won't be as concerned about this wall moving forward or back. So let me get the contraption I was using. I was using these guys here. And these stops. These are what I mean when I say stops. They go into these holes. And if I put a stop behind this piece into a hole, this piece won't be able to slide back and forth once I start using the pry bar. But if I didn't have this fixture table with these stops, when I take the pry bar and try and pry this piece back to that, the piece will slide. So when I say stops, you guys know what I'm talking about. This is about 1 inch about an inch, close to an inch diameter, and this is 5/8 to go into these 5/8 holes. But what I'm gonna do right now is put one here, and it should work out. Now take my pry bar, because there's about a 1/4 inch gap in here between this piece and the edge, the front edge of this piece. So I gotta take the pry bar and pry it together and then put the weld on there. I think I'm gonna take this stop, I have a stop back here. I'm gonna put in this hole right behind it, just in case it tries to move. I see a little piece of debris in there. And when I see debris between this metal and the metal I'm about to weld to, I have to get it out of there or it's gonna leave that gap in there. I just noticed that some of my welds in here broke loose. See if I can get you guys a little bit closer here. I noticed some of these welds in here broke loose, but it's not a big deal. I just get my pry bar and just pry it back to it. It's not a big deal. But I'll do that before I do this out here. Let me see. See how I want to do this. Let me try one of my side stops. This is a side stop. It's like my regular stop, but it has an adjustment on it. Where if the hole for the stop is too far away from the piece, I can put this in and try and push this wall forward. So just so I can re-tack it. It looks like just maybe 2 of the welds broke loose, maybe 3. And that just means that I just didn't weld them up tight enough, that's all. Yep, so not a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and tack it again. And I think there's one more spot here. A few of them came loose. I must have been rushing when I did this. But that's art. I'm just glad I caught it. Not the biggest of deals, because when I flipped this over, I would have saw the gap, and I would have took some clamps and just clamped it together, and then just put my welds in there. So it's not the biggest deal. All right, so I'll get back to trying to close this gap and just putting a couple of tacks in there. See if I can clamp this down a little bit more so it's not moving around. Because right now when I'm pushing this in, it's trying to roll up, and I do not want it to roll up like that. But then the challenge is getting my welder in there into this spot to weld it. I just want to keep this, as I pry this, I don't want this back wall, I don't want that kind of moving forward or back or anything. I want it to stay where it's at. Yeah, it's better. And as you guys can see, I'm not wearing a helmet, but you wear yours. When I get ready to weld the whole thing up, I will put my helmet on, but for this, I really don't need to. I just close my eyes. And again, this video is really just about showing you guys the advantages of the fixture table, not so much about the art. So if you guys can get your hands on one, I mean, whether it's now or in the future, you just know that there are benefits to having one. I mean, they sell these things. You can get them a lot more costly than this one. These were from this table was from, like I said, Prime Weld, and I paid $8.99 for a 2x3, and the thickness is I think it's a 5. Is it 3/8 or 5/8 thickness? One or the other, 3/8 or 5/8, one or the other. Could be. Is it 3/8? Could be 3/8 thickness, from top to the underside. And then on the underside is webbed, has a bunch of webbing going under there that's solid. This is cast iron, and they have like a nitride coating over it just to keep it from rusting and whatnot. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is start welding in this area here. So I gotta take the pry bar, pry the wall back, and try and get some welds in there. And it's just not the easiest thing to do, but it's not like difficult or anything. I just gotta just put this in a hole. Find the hole to put it in. And then I'll take, I gotta take this piece here out. Then I just have to find where I want to connect this to, and then I'll use something like this because it's fairly wide and it's smooth. I'll put it here, and then I'll take a flat piece, put it behind it. So when I put pressure on this, this flat piece will lay this piece to that pieces on the table. Just ways of doing it. Then I put this other stop behind this piece to keep it from rolling out and onto the floor somewhere. It will just kind of keep it from moving out too far. I think I'll put a stop here just to keep this from popping back out this way. And guys, these are the advantages. I mean, there's no way I could do this with any other table if I didn't have all these holes. You know, I think these are 2 inches on center, I believe it is. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and put something here to keep this from being able to tweak it or move it all. I think I'd rather do that. So just gotta get a piece of wood maybe. And I'm just trying to find something to put on here just to be able to put pressure on, downward pressure on the piece, just to keep it from moving backwards or forwards or anything. So I think I'll tack it here. Try to get you guys in a little bit better, so hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And all I'm doing is just moving down the piece, moving down this wall, just welding it in. And like I said, without this having this table, this would be pretty difficult to do from this position anyway. And now it's just a matter of just moving down the wall. Take and slide this to this hole. Move to this hole. And just keep prying it, keep doing it. And I'm checking and making sure this is still sitting on the table and hasn't raised up off the table. Because if it raises up off the table, even a little bit, by the time I get down here, it could be a 1/4 inch gap between this piece and the table, and this piece is lying on the table. So it can be a big gap there. So when I'm going to go to close this off, as opposed to this piece hitting the wall and the area in here, the front of this piece, it'll be sitting on top of this piece. So as you're welding, I'm constantly bending down, looking under here. Take my fingernail, make sure there's no gap between this wall and the table. I want to keep that right on that table if I can. I'm going all the way down, because if I start out with a 16th gap here, by the time I get here, it's at an 1/8, 3/16, 1/4. And by the time I get down here, it could be, a 1/4 inch, 3/8, somewhere in there. So I just try to make sure you keep your eye on what your gaps are. And I think this might be okay. I might not have to move this one because it's not hitting this wall in here, so I can leave this one here. and there's this wall is touching this pieces on the table, so I can just put a couple more tacks in here. I don't have to slide this down and jam it up to it because it's already right there. So I feel pretty good about that. I think this is about the last spot I can do that with by hand. And I'm having a little bit of a, not an issue, but the reason these tacks came loose is because this is 14 gauge and the piece on the bottom, this portion is either 10 or 11 gauge. And so I'm trying to burn in to this more than a 16 gauge. And I don't want to burn a hole, I mean, not 16, but 14 gauge. I don't want to burn a hole to the 14 gauge because I'm trying to burn into this 10 or 11 gauge. So I'm having to just kind of judge which way I want to go. So what I think I'm going to have to do is just tack to both and then just put an extra tack to that bottom plate, this bottom 10 or 11 gauge piece, just to make sure that weld holds. Because they're trying to slide come loose because I didn't weld completely into that bottom pieces on the table. I'll just go back and put a extra tack on there. Getting there now. Just making sure it's on the table. Getting this last little gap in there, little weld. Looks pretty good. And now for here, I'm going to just move this down. Maybe in here. It's going to be a little bit more challenging to get this in here. So I'm going to have to be trying to pry this back to close this gap in here. So I'm gonna do is take this stop might be okay. I'll just see what I have here. And I can just take my body and put it to this pry bar, and that way I don't have to be trying to use all my strength and my arm to do it. And this thing is raising up. So I'm going to have to take one of these, bring it to this side now, because this was what I was talking about up here. When I would close this in, it would try and lift up off the table and there would be a big gap. So there's a big gap down here at the table, between this and the table, because when I try and roll this back, the wall wants to roll forward. So I'm about to take and bring this guy over here, or I'll just grab another one and bring it over here and set it up over on this side. So I have to move a couple things around, which is not a big deal. What I think I'll do is just take the whole piece and just slide it forward just a little bit. All right, guys, so I just move the bracket over. and clamp this wall to it. So when this goes in, when I push this metal in, it won't raise up off the table because this wall wants to collapse in because of the stress that I'm putting on this wall. So again, that's another benefit of this table. Like I said, it'll be very difficult for me to do this this piece without this table. Again, it's one of the benefits of a fixture table. I'm gonna put this guy here. I just gotta find a way to get in here to pry everything. Pretty close there. Get a good weld in here, get a good tack in here. Let's see if I can move this up just a little bit more. And I'm just using my my hip to kind of force it back so I can use my hands to guide everything else. Make sure this is touching the table. Put an extra tack on the bottom plate, on the bottom piece. Make sure it welds in. And we'll see if I can squeeze my water in there to get into that corner a little bit more. I'm not sure if I can, but I'll give it a shot. All right, guys, so that's just showing you some of the benefits of this fixture table. They're not cheap, but they're not overly expensive. All right, guys. So that's going to kind of wrap it up for this video. Again, the topic of this video is just some of the benefits of having a fixture table. You know, and how I really use it to my advantage when I'm making pieces like this, where it's really difficult to bend the metal and get it to, you know, fit in like I want it to, and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I could have used a Harbor Freight, or like I think there's a Northern 2 that has a table. I could have used one of those, but it just would have been a lot more difficult to use because I would not have had the leverage of using, you know, the stops and the pry bar and all that stuff. It would have just been really difficult to do. I mean, I could have had this piece flipped over, and the pieces on the table could have been on the top, and I could have been like kind of squeezing this together and clamping and, you know, tacking and squeezing and tacking and all of that. But I could have had, you know, the piece on the bottom could have been off the table and could have been tweaked and all that stuff, and I would not have known it until I got to the end of the, you know, the piece, and then I would have been pretty upset because the piece is tweaked. And the goal with something like this is to not have any twist or anything. I want it as flat as I possibly can get it. Well, all right, guys. I'm going to, and oh yeah, I'm gonna put up just a couple pictures of the pieces my son and I made. I talked about it at the beginning of the video, but I'm gonna put up a couple pieces just so you guys can see. Haven't even named the pieces yet, but we made 4. We'll call them mediums because they're not, you know, quite big, and they're not tabletops. So they're medium sized. There'll be 4 of them, so I'll be just putting pictures up so you guys can take a look at them. But all right, guys, that's going to do it for this video, and I hope to see you on the next one. Probably be maybe finishing up this piece or something. But as usual, peace out.